here. As just mentioned, my name is Amy King. I'm Vice President of Client Success for our content creators business at Bazaarvoice. And really thrilled to have an opportunity to have a fireside chat without fire. Actually, we've got fire inside of us from Longhorns, but a fireside chat here with Craig and just kind of talk a little bit about the shopper experience. And I really think you guys have really tapped into engaging Gen Z and all that entails, and then also just everything as we're thinking about sports and what we just heard about here in terms of NIL and everything else. So we'd love to kind of go there throughout our discussion today.
Let's do it. First of all, I've been here since Friday, and put me in, Coach. I'm pumped to be here. My daughter is a Longhorn, and she's a sophomore here. And it was fun to be here in the Touchdown Club on Saturday, and fun to be with you guys today. My motto in my career is show up to the people that show up for you, and so I do have to give a shout out to the brand Innovators team, especially Trey and Mark. When you get to these senior roles, literally I can be speaking 5 days a week at different conferences. Obviously, I have a job to do. So again, I can't do it all the time. I have to be hyper selective, but I do show up for brand Innovators. So really fun to be here today with you all.
Love that. Confession, you guys have been listening to a bunch of podcasts that Craig's on. Just search his name and podcast. You guys will find them, and you should give them all a listen after this because there's a lot for us to learn from Craig here. So excited for the opportunity to have this discussion with each of you. Let's see here. So let's start out by talking a little bit about the customers that you guys reach and that you serve here at American Eagle. I know that they expect a highly personalized experience. I think we all kind of see that in our line of work that identifies both with their lifestyle and kind of helps reflect their identity. And so how does American Eagle address and engage with Gen Z shoppers specifically? And what do you find most effective for driving loyalty in that demographic?
It's a really fun time to be at American Eagle. So we just recently were named the #1 retailer for Gen Z as defined by us age 15 to 25. But the cool thing is we actually serve 3 generations. So millennial customers that knew AE back in high school or college have actually stuck around. We're the #1 selling jeans in America, more than Levi's actually. We also have an emerging generation, Gen Alpha, generally defined as 13 years and younger. And so while Gen Z is the bullseye, it's actually super interesting and unique to actually have to serve all 3 of those generations. And Amy, you hit the nail on the head. So many of this generation expect personalized service no matter where they are and how they shop with us because they've gotten used to Spotify, to Netflix, to Amazon, and to others. And so knowing them is really an important part of what we do at American Eagle. We have the 2nd largest physical store fleet in the U.S. We're over $1 billion in e-commerce as well. And we have to know where you are. You may shop here at Bar and Square, but you also might shop with us on .com as well. Our loyalty program, about 22 million loyalty customers, also extremely important because it allows us to understand what is the next best message to serve up to them to make them happy and for us to make some money. So that personalized service really is probably the 2 or 3 big important things in my industry in the coming years.
I actually learned this from one of the podcasts that I listened to that you're on, but how do you listen to the consumers? Like, how do you actually engage with all those different demographics to find out what it is that they're looking for and how you can best serve them?
We do it a number of ways. First of all, we have our own 2,000-person Gen Z panel, and we can ask any question on any topic, and we often do, from what band do you like, to what causes do you want us to support, to does this tagline actually make sense for you. Second, this is something I learned when I joined the team roughly 4 years ago, is remember we have 35,000 store associates. The vast majority of those people are Gen Z. Why not engage them as well, and we do. And I think the third thing is we're out in the marketplace. And yes, it is the mall, but more importantly, it is college sports. It is cultural events. It is music festivals. And I know it sounds rudimentary in a world that's hyper data this and hyper data that, but there is something still, I think, that makes a difference when you're out in the wild and you're just observing people. And I think that's helped us as well.
Absolutely. Bazaarvoice actually has powered the ratings and reviews program at American Eagle for years now. which is another way that we have an opportunity to really amplify the consumer voice in a different way. And I know you were talking about how you guys kind of analyze that data. Tell us a little bit about how just all of these inputs, so you mentioned you've got all these different ways to connect. On the quantitative side of things, how do you guys use the data to help inform maybe which direction you're taking the brand in next?
So I'm not saying this because my new friend Amy is up here, but we really do pour over these reviews. It's that important. And we think that because in a world where our competitors are not just Abercrombie, not just Gap, not just Urban Outfitters, our competitors are ultra fashion, the fast fashion players like Shein, like Princess Polly, and quality is important to us. Quality in terms of our product, quality in terms of our experiences. So when people take the time to provide feedback, whether it's positive or negative, we take it very, very seriously. I get a sales read every hour of every day. Think about that. You know, if you're going to say overwhelming, right? And the reviews provide us feedback almost every hour of every day. This product is taking off, we need to pour more marketing support behind this. Or, hey, this product doesn't fit well, or this product is not performing how we expect it to. Maybe there's something we need to tweak and do around that. So that feedback is super important, all the way up literally to the present level of the company. It was pouring over those reviews on a daily basis. And one thing, you know, that is a challenge for my industry is the fact that everyone is ordering so much over e-commerce these days that a typical return rate is about 20%, meaning 1 out of 5 products is typically sent back. If we can just very small, you know, take a dent into that returns, that's a big financial deal for my company. Generally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And so to build on what you're saying, we really now go deep into the data to understand what's working, what's not working, and to pull out some takeaways from that.
Yeah. I think another thing too is you've been instrumental in forging partnerships with many of the large social platforms. How has that kind of helped you guys as well in the business, just with partnerships that you've got, whether it be through, you know, I mean, now we have to keep up with so many channels, but whether it be TikTok or whether it be connecting with consumers via Snap or other channels like that, tell us how that's worked.
In my long marketing career, I think that there are probably 2 major events that have happened, and a third is about to happen. One is just the advent.com. 2 is really TikTok. And the reality is there's nothing been as profound on my business, my industry, as TikTok has been in the last 5 or so years. Don't know if you guys know this, but the head of North America TikTok lives here in Austin. He's a big Longhorn fan. My first touchdown club experience was with him last year, so he's excited I'm here as well. But if something takes off at American Eagle, the first call I get from head of stores or head of e-commerce is something going viral on TikTok. And almost 99% of the time, that's what's happened. And so I've seen other platforms build our brand. I've seen other platforms build our business. I have not seen the financial impact that TikTok has brought to the table for us. And the third thing that is happening now, but will really happen for any students here in the audience, is AI. And so the opportunities in AI to provide a more personalized experience and more personalized marketing and advertising is happening. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but we're all Longhorn friends here, so I'm going to say this, is I personally was the first CMO avatar on TikTok about 3 or 4 months ago. I went into the New York offices. I spoke for roughly 7 minutes into a camera about anything. I just had to keep on talking. I now have an avatar who I can program to say and do anything out there, which is mind-blowing to me personally. But if you then think about the opportunities for a marketer or an advertiser, it's unbelievable because I can now potentially micro-target an Austin audience on a beautiful 87-degree day very differently than I would target someone who might be in New York City right now, where it's 40 degrees this morning, but it's coming from the same person. It's coming from the same creator. So I think that is going to be a really exciting opportunity for us going forward.
Talk about a shift. I mean, I feel like we couldn't even fathom that would be the world that we would be living in, and then to think that now it's giving you that reach and the ability to be able to tailor and target in the way that it has is pretty incredible. We were just talking about this earlier this morning as well. Talk a little bit about, and this was one of our questions, I'm totally blowing off straight.
Let's go.
Okay, yeah, we're just taking a wild ride, folks. But talk a little bit about, you mentioned how American Eagle has really been able to tap into women's sports. Talk a little bit about that. I feel like that'll appeal here to this audience.
So we work with about 700 creators or influencers every season. And when the NIL law came into place, we rose our hand very quickly and said, let's dabble in this. We've been on a journey. We've made some mistakes and we've learned some things, but the one big takeaway has been that niche female sports are by far our best performers for American Eagle. There's a couple reasons why I think it is. First of all, it is fair to say that 70% of our customer base is female, so that's probably helping. But as a dude, I'm going to say it. Women are better content creators. They're more responsible, and they actually deliver a message in a much more effective way. And so while we still do have some of the biggest college football players, we still do have some of the biggest men's college basketball players on the roster, there is no doubt that the female athletes have really driven our business from a pure performance perspective. And so for any brands in here that are looking to get deeper into NIL, I would highly recommend that you not just look at the big sports that are driving the TV ratings, look at those niche female sports that potentially could drive your business.
I think too, we were talking about how the content now that's getting created, it's so authentic, and it doesn't have to come from the brand. We now have so many creators that are out there looking to create content on the brand's behalf and really inform what that brand is or influence those shoppers along the way. Bazaarvoice has what we call our Shopper Experience Index, where we analyze our vast network through both our brands and our retail channels. And we found that 78% of consumers feel more confident in a purchase when they view shopper content. So talking about how you've kind of tapped into creators and tapped into that shopper content, in what ways do you see authentic, user-generated content, either through reviews or social posts or anything like that, influencing the purchase decisions for your brands?
It's basically everything these days. So I've had the privilege of sitting in the CMO chair at high control, high command brands like Calvin Klein and Abercrombie Fitch back in the day. And as I look at the evolution of my career, it's all about custom content, creator, influencer-led creative today. And so on TikTok, for example, we basically don't do anything ourselves anymore. We provide a very light brief to a creator, and he or she or they're going to go out and do what they do best. And so on one hand, it's exciting, right? It's lo-fi. It sometimes is less expensive and more efficient to create, and yet it's totally overwhelming because back in the day, we would shoot, a campaign. There'd be maybe 6 shots. You'd put a double-page spread in Vogue and a billboard up, high-five each other, and move on with your life. Today, I have a team of mostly Gen Z marketing associates, and we're putting out 500, 600, 700 pieces of content every single week, which is totally overwhelming, but also totally effective. And the reality is, and again, I have 2 of them, one here at UT. I'm sorry to say, Gen Z has the attention span of a gnat. And so, they're moving very quickly, and we have to move with them. And the creative community, especially athletes, but the creative community overall, allows us to do that in a very efficient, but in a very, very fast way.
You mentioned about giving the creators the freedom to kind of take the brief in the direction they want to take it. As a CMO, as you kind of evolved and you've been in a lot of different brands, I'm curious on the personal journey of the relinquishing control of the content, because you just kind of have to trust at that point. And it is the authentic voice that's coming out. How is that? Has it been exercising
right, yeah. Butterflies in the stomach, me asking my team, do you think I'm going to get fired over this?
Right.
You're just basically jumping off a cliff. And, you also have so many creators to vet as well, right? And we're all human beings, and we've all said dumb things at at different times in our lives. So even that is overwhelming. But the reality is, and we've done it ourselves. We put product on, I guess, a traditional, model, and then we put it on literally a store associate in a fitting room. And you know what I'm about to say? The store associate in the fitting room who did a selfie easily outperforms anything that we're trying to capture from a model perspective. So I think that's the name of the game. And again, if you're a brand like American Eagle and our sister brand Aerie, who really has stood for authenticity for a very long time, I don't know, many of the college students in the room probably know this. Aerie was the first brand not to retouch women, and have continued that trajectory. This is who we are, and I think that's why we're winning this right now.
I would say as a consumer, I'll never forget when Aerie came out the door with embracing real bodies that were different, and also the adaptive clothing and things like that. It was really, I felt like they were ahead of their time, and being able to bring that to life, which was exciting. I don't know about you guys, but I am also easily influenced by all of the content that I take in online. In the past week, I found myself, this is again TMI for all of you, but on a lip stain journey. For anybody on TikTok that's been victimized, I'll call it, by the Wonder Skin lip stain campaigns that are like taking over, at least in my TikTok world that I live in. And I find myself on these journeys. So as consumers, we get served their content, and depending on, how the data behind the scenes is reading us as a consumer, it's serving up that content to us and taking us on this journey, which I think could look really different. I think my next journey is actually into wide-leg jeans. That feels like where my content is taking me this week. I'm thankful to, I guess when I made the purchase, it's taken me out of the lip stain journey, but it's been an exciting wave, I think, and as I'm not falling into the category of an aging consumer, I think, but it's so interesting to see how content is shaping us and shaping the future of shopping and just our behavior in general and what we say, what we do, what we buy, and it's all become so easy now that it's at our fingertips. It's just like this whole new scale that I think has introduced ourselves. So as we're thinking through purchase decisions that are made through social media and how it can be easily influenced, actually you've already kind of tapped into this with your influencers, and you talked about how you guys have created a community actually of employees that you're tapping into, not just, you have the Gen Z panel that you can tap into to understand what they're looking for, what might resonate, but then you've also tapped into your own team to help build that content. And you mentioned that there can even be more power in the mirror selfie than the polished content. How has that really, developed the business, or how is that evolving in what you're doing next as you're starting to think of, what to do next? Producing 500 to 700 pieces of content a week. I don't know how you can think about what you're doing next, but how do you and your team think through that?
I think the next stage for this is, as I mentioned at the top of the conversation here, you're in about 900 stores in the U.S., again, second largest store fleet. And I think the one thing that Gen Z does want is something that feels personalized, bespoke, and it's more about me. And so actually, we don't want to always feel like the big chain store out in the world. And so what we try to do with that local store associate team, especially in the social space, is to make it feel like this is actually just my local Austin store. And I know the people that work there, they know my style, they know what fits me well, they reflect my values. And so I think the ability to develop these smaller communities that at the heart of it is our store is really important in a world where you don't want to feel like you're just a vanilla corporate chain. And you have to do it in a way that feels real, because one thing that Gen Z definitely has is a very strong BS meter. And so I think that's going to be the next stage for us. And it's interesting, and you bring it up, is we have a pretty sophisticated marketing measurement tool that tells us that it takes 30 touches before someone buys a pair of jeans. Think about that. How many things have to happen before someone gets to that point, and no one's journey is similar. So I don't know, again, marketing students, if you've learned about this in class, you learned about dinosaurs from the earth. I was a college student. We had this marketing funnel. It was awareness and consideration and all the things. And you toss that to the side because every one of us has a different journey to purchase, whether it's impulse or whether it's very considered. But again, at least for us, it's about 30 touches, which is pretty interesting.
Wow, 30 touches. Actually, I think that probably feels right. I'm not going to start analyzing my own purchase decision, but that does make sense. I think we're probably, how am I on time? Okay. I was going to ask you, what piece of advice would you give to other fashion brands, or really anyone in this audience who's looking to transform their shopper experience?
I'm a big believer that it's the art and science that all of us have to continue to practice. And again, we're all dated up, and again, we like to look at it, but I think to cut through, sometimes you have to just make a judgment call, a judgment decision to be best in class or to be innovative. So I would exercise both sides of those brains to come to market in a really effective and powerful way. Because I think in the age of AI, which I'm personally very excited about, there is the potential for all of us to begin to look and feel very similar. So what is it that is unique to your brand, or what is different and unique to your product offering is really how you're going to be effective. For us, it's the values of our brand, it's a must-win product, jeans, and then it's the experience that we provide in stores. Those are on the top mind of every single employee at American Eagle. I guess I'd say, what are your top three?
Love that. And I know you've also held positions previously at Gap, at Abercrombie, Calvin Klein. What experience have you taken with you that kind of teed you in American Eagle up for success?
Two things, and I think we're getting the Oscar music in just a second, but two things that come to mind for me is, one, iconic brands run towards who they are, but they have to tell that story in a modern way. I think I've made kind of a bit of a career out of joining these iconic American retail brands at a time of transition. Calvin was into the digital age. Abercrombie was getting away from some of the sexualized past and more to a more inclusive future. Here at American Eagle, it was really about globalizing the brand and then kind of leaning a little bit more back into the brand. So I think that's one side of it that is super important. And I think the other thing is pay attention to details. I know it's hard, but a couple of great CEOs have taught me along the way is take the time to pay attention to the details, because when you do, you know what you're putting out into the universe really is a reflection of who you are as a brand, and a reflection of people that work for your brand. That's hard because that means that you have to say no a lot more times than you get to say yes. But again, I think that great brands do that very, very well.
Love that. Craig, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you for the opportunity to get to stand up here and have a fireside chat with you in this beautiful venue, and for all of your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy.